Back in 2015, Game of Thrones was in its prime. It truly had become mainstream and everyone was talking about it, and the show had yet to venture into basically being fanfiction, though may I say very entertaining fanfiction. It was the summer of this year that I saw a Facebook ad for a truly great game, Game of Thrones Ascent. It was for one of those freemium games, and yes, they have a bad rap that they're very deserving of. But this one was different. It didn't demand your constant attention, and you didn't have to spend money. Sure, spending money was encouraged and was helpful for player versus player. It did give a slight upper hand, but honestly, PvP wasn't even something you felt you had to do in this game. The story was great and intriguing. The grind was there, but it wasn't terrible. And you could earn gold in the game fairly easy. Also, it gave what people wanted from a Game of Thrones game, and that is role-playing. You could choose your faith, your alignment, your allegiance. These decisions and your constant interactions with characters in the story changed your character's attitude. It didn't have fancy graphics or anything like that, because it didn't need that. You got to be a lord with your own entourage. And you could even restart the game as someone new with a new allegiance. In fact, this was encouraged because supporting each family would allow for new buildings to be built, and by restarting and supporting a new family, such as my first playthrough supporting Targaryens and then the second time supporting Stark, you had access to the old buildings as well as the new. So really you wanted to play the game for a while with your allegiance to one family and then reincarnate and jump to a new one and keep doing that, and you could have all the buildings. It honestly was a lot of fun. And since it didn't bug me every 5 minutes to give them money, nor did I feel like I had to, I'll admit that I threw a few bucks every month towards it, cause why not? Of course, when I went back to school that fall, I played less and less. Partly because of being busy, and partly because, like most games you play every day, burnout sets in. However, I would jump back into the game head first every once in a while. Mainly the time a new season of Game of Thrones would start, or if I was doing another watch through. Until this year, when I wanted to play the game again, and sadly, the game was no more. And I'll come back to this disappointment in a few minutes. I say all this because I have recently, or should I say we all have recently been seeing these constant ads for a game called Winter is Coming. The only official licensed Game of Thrones game out there. Honestly, if my channel was monetized, they would probably have an ad running right in the beginning of this very video. Also, I don't know if it's true that they are the only official game, cause I've seen like 5 different games claiming that. Or maybe 5 different ads from this game that show wildly different gameplay that doesn't really exist in the game? I'm not actually sure there. So, first off, if you were like me, you would download the game because it's faster than playing on a browser. And I downloaded it onto my computer because, well, I don't really like playing games on my phone. Sometimes I'll play games on my tablet, but I'd rather just play them on a laptop or a desktop. However, you can't just download the game. You have to download the whole, arcade system thing that it runs on. And that program does that annoying thing where it just wants to start up every time you turn your computer on. And look, I only give Steam that honor. Spotify doesn't even get that honor. Only Steam. So it takes a lot of guts for this thing to do that, because this program is not deserving of that honor. And, of course, when it pops up, the first thing that you see are offers to pay money for in-game stuff. You see, it's games like this that give the whole freemium genre the bad reputation that it had. And, of course, looking at the page right at the start, I swear I have played games exactly like this one before. It just bombards you with so many options that at first makes it look like there's tons of stuff to do, but most of that will require money, and it's all very mundane. Actually, this kind of reminds me of casino games, where there's the flashy art and the constant pop-ups that keeps you focused on the game. It keeps your attention there. But instead of making a game of any substance, They were just banking on the name recognition of Game of Thrones to get them that sweet, sweet dough. Now, is there some diversity in gameplay? Sure. But this isn't really a plus in my opinion, since most of what it's trying to do can be done far better in other games. Like building your own kingdom. There's a million games out there that do this. Hell, half of those million are pay-to-win games like this one, so it's not very unique at all. And I definitely would take classics like Empire Earth or Age of Empires if I want something where I just get to build buildings that make little troops and stuff. Not to mention there's great options like Civilization out there. Like if building the kingdom is the draw here, there are tons of other options out there. Even Ascent did a better job at this. Yes, this game does have a campaign of sorts, but again, it's crap. And of course, there is a player versus player element, and that makes the game more interesting, right? Nope. The game is so heavy in its pay-to-win slant that you shouldn't even bother trying to compete with anyone. And again, other games are better at this. Games like Travian is one of my favorite, my introduction to this genre. Stronghold Kingdoms is a perfection of it. It has the concept of kingdom building and fighting others. Those games, of course, are pay to win too, but it never feels like you have to if you just want to be entertained. Now, a plus for this game is the rearward tree. It's actually pretty fun. So everything else has been done better elsewhere, but the rearward tree allows you to use commanders and play through old storylines to get more commanders. I admit, this got me hooked for a bit. There is some customizing here, and you get to level commanders and use their skills during a fight. It feels fresh and fun and moves at a pretty quick pace. There is strategy, but not really though. It's more of those, it feels like you have a strategy, but really you're just pointing and clicking the same things over. It's like how many Telltale games have choice, but also it doesn't really matter. I will say I enjoyed this aspect of the game, but I did lose interest in it after a while. As with most games of this type, the start is fun and leveling up and customizing is pretty cool, but then you realize the grinding is going to be a thing, and it just kind of loses its fun. And grinding itself certainly can be fun. I don't mind grinding in games like Ark or 7 Days to Die. The grinding is more hands-on, but the gameplay in this aspect of the game starts to feel dry. Like they had something here with the rearward tree, but like most of this game, it's pretty shallow. This game actually really reminds me of an app I once had, which was just a game for the anime Fairy Tail. It had the same setup with all the different options at the top of the screen and all the same kind of notices. And it had separate gameplay ideas as well that were built into the game. That too was a blatant cash grab, but that one actually was pretty entertaining. So even when compared with other shallow games that just want to take all your money from you, Winter is Coming sucks. Now this game is beautiful for what it is. The animation and the art is far above what I expected going into this, and I was impressed by it. I will give a little applause there. But graphics are not everything when it comes to games. And yes, when I first started playing, I did drop a couple hours into this game. It did draw me in and kind of made my Sunday afternoon disappear, but it began to feel repetitive, and finally it became all too clear that to play this game, my wallet was going to be hurting. This game sucks, but honestly, I'm disappointed in HBO for allowing this to happen. Like, why? Why further sully the name of Game of Thrones? Was putting a rushed, half-assed season to end the show not enough that you had to allow this half-assed game to exist? Also, you had an amazing game in Ascent. Well, amazing for the genre of freemium. Was it just not making enough money? Did Disruptor Beam not have the rights to the name anymore? And it's interesting that Ascent ended before the last season. Like, HBO wanted there to be only one game that was also new to capitalize on the hype of the last season. Which, that just kind of pisses me off. But just like how an amazing show had its essence taken and replaced with Hollywood writing and big budget scenes a game with a great story and engagement was replaced by a shallow, albeit beautiful, game. Also, I want to point something out about the ending of Ascent. This sends a bad message about freemium and mobile games. They aren't lasting. They're not to be trusted. I know games like these have disappeared in the past, but this was a good one. And if the good ones can go, then why bother putting any money into them? Why bother playing them at all? Mobile games can be fun, but honestly, I'm more inclined now to stay with the mindless time wasters while I'm just sitting waiting somewhere than ever put money into one of these again. My kingdom was just gone. All that work, gone. And it's disappointing. And what's worse is that the replacement isn't half as good. One of my favorite aspects of Ascent was that you felt like you were making a unique court. You had loyal servants and plenty of them to choose from. Winter is Coming gives you commanders that may be unique, but really they just want to show off that you can get the Starks or buy Jaime Lannister. It's cheap. And apparently we must suffer with never-ending ads for this terrible game for the foreseeable future, because they are still coming. So that's basically all I had for this video. I truly wish that somehow Ascent comes back, because it did offer a unique experience that I do have trouble finding in other games. And its focus was role-playing, and Game of Thrones just demands a role-playing game. But don't worry, because that game does exist. Well, kinda. There is a game made by a gaming company called Paradox, and it's called Crusader Kings 2. I highly suggest you go look at it and go buy it. This isn't sponsored or anything. I've just logged over 1,000 hours into this game, and I absolutely love it. There is a mod that totally restructures the game to be the world of Ice and Fire. You can play as figures like Aegon the Conqueror or Ned Stark, or make your own. One of my favorite playthroughs was being a bastard Targaryen who grew up in the Iron Islands during the Dance of Dragons. Eventually, I was able to get a dragon, and I raided the hell out of the world from the back of my dragon. The game is a hybrid of strategy and roleplay, so perfect for Game of Thrones, and it's been out forever and still gets quality DLC. And shout out to Ned Stark for doing the right thing in one of my playthroughs. He took Jon to the north like he promised, but after a couple of years, he told everyone who Jon's parents were, and then fought a war to dethrone Robert, and Jon was placed on the Iron Throne. Like, thumbs up for Ned for knowing what to do. He had Dorne, Reach, Riverlands, and of course the North, all against Robert, who only had the Stormlands, since Jon Arryn and Tywin stayed out of the fighting. Anyways, I just wanted to suggest that for anyone who was looking for a good game for Game of Thrones. Thank you for watching. If any are interested, I might make videos that talk about the crazy things that happened in that game or some of the mod storylines that I've done. Please like and share this video with others that are annoyed at all those ads for Winter is Coming. And of course, please subscribe. And as always, stay saxy. Now excuse me while I uninstall this god-awful game.